I still remember one summer when my friends and I were running through the fields outside our village, and the wind was so strong it felt alive. It snatched our caps, tangled our hair, tossed old wrappers into puddles, and whistled in our ears so loudly we laughed and shouted with joy. My friend Emma stopped, holding down her skirt as the wind tried to lift it up, looking both annoyed and amused. "Who's pushing it?" she suddenly shouted. "Where does it even come from?" We all stopped and thought. Everyone looked at me, because I was always the one who made up stories to answer strange questions like that. I looked up at the sky. Clouds rushed by as if something invisible was chasing them. The grass leaned one way, and the trees were rustling. I started to wonder myself, who really stirs up the wind? "Do you want to know a secret?" I asked Emma. She nodded, and we sat down in the grass, holding our caps tightly so they wouldn't fly away. I could already feel a story forming in my head. "The wind is made by giants," I began in a whisper. Emma's eyes widened, and all our friends leaned in closer so they wouldn't miss a single word. "High up beyond the mountains," I said, "live giants. They're so huge that their heads touch the clouds, and their arms can stretch all the way to the horizon." Emma's mouth fell open in awe, and the others waited silently. "When the sun heats the earth during the day, it can get way too hot for people and animals. That's when the giants come out, climb to the mountain peaks, and start to blow. They take deep breaths and then giant exhales. And that's how the wind spreads all over the land." Jack raised an eyebrow and said, "So, they never get tired?" I smiled. "Of course they do. That's why the wind isn't always the same. When the giants are full of energy, they blow with all their strength and create storms. But when they get tired, the wind becomes soft and gentle, like a quiet breath," Emma asked. "And storms? Are they the giants too?" "Yes," I nodded. "That's when the giants argue. They blow at each other, and their shouting turns into winds so strong that trees bend to the ground." Everyone laughed, but at the same time we all imagined those enormous giants fighting far beyond the horizon and accidentally stirring up a storm above our little village. We sat there, listening to the wind swirl around us, and for a moment it really felt alive. We lay in the grass while the wind tugged at our clothes and swayed the tops of the trees. Emma leaned toward me and whispered, "Why is the wind sometimes warm and sometimes cold? Aren't the giants always the same?" I thought for a moment and then said, "Because some giants are older and some are younger. The older ones have white beards and cold breath. They blow air from the snow and ice. The younger ones are warm and playful. They send wind from deserts and sunny fields." The kids buzzed with excitement. "What if they blow together?" Jack asked. "Then the warm and cold air meet, start to fight, and that's how thunderstorms are born," I explained, raising my finger like a wise storyteller. Emma looked up at the sky thoughtfully. "Can they blow colorful air too?" I laughed. "If they could, we'd see rainbows even without the rain. Imagine walking through the village while the wind paints colorful stripes across the sky." Everyone laughed again, but then we all grew quiet. The image was so bright in our minds, we could almost see it, the sky painted by giant breaths. Just then, the wind picked up, and we all burst out laughing again, as if the giants themselves had heard us and decided to play along. We kept laughing, imagining those colorful giant breaths, when Jack suddenly asked seriously, "But really, who really makes the wind?" I went silent. All eyes turned to me. I felt it was time to share not just the fairy tale, but the real explanation too. "You want to know?" I asked. "All right, listen. I grabbed a handful of grass and tossed it into the air. The wind picked it up and scattered it across the field. The truth is, the wind comes from the sun. The sun heats the ground, but not everywhere the same. Where it's hotter, the air gets light and rises. Where it's cooler, the air is heavier and rushes in to take its place. That's how the air starts to move. The kids tilted their heads trying to understand. Emma raised her eyebrows. So wind is just air switching places all the time? Exactly, I nodded. The giants are just our fun story. But the real magic comes from the sun and the earth. Emma smiled softly. That's still beautiful, she said. It means the wind is like a dance of air. I smiled back. Yes, a dance of invisible currents that we feel on our skin. We all fell silent, just listening to the field rustling around us. And for the first time, I felt that the real explanation was just as magical as the story. The next day, we decided to test what I had said. I brought a few sheets of colorful paper, scissors, and thin sticks to the yard. Emma, Jack, and I cut out squares, made diagonal cuts, and pinned the corners to the center with small pins. We had bright, spinning windmills. Let's see who finds the strongest wind, I announced proudly. We ran out onto the street. Our wind spinners began to twirl immediately, some fast, some slower. We ran across the field holding them high, laughing as the wind played with the colorful blades. Emma suddenly stopped and said, "Look, it spins faster here than over there." I nodded. Because the wind isn't the same everywhere. Where the sun warmed the ground more, the air moves faster. We started running from one spot to another like real scientists, and each of us felt like we were discovering something new. When we stopped to rest, Emma said softly, "You know, your story about the giants was lovely, but the real explanation, it's even more interesting." I smiled because I realized something. The world wasn't just fields and wind to us anymore. It had become a huge mystery we could explore and understand, and that made it feel even more magical. Many years have passed. Now I understand how the atmosphere works, how the sun heats the earth, how warm air rises and cool air sinks, how winds and even storms are formed. I can explain it with science, with numbers and diagrams. But whenever I step into a field and feel the wind brush against my face, I remember that day, how we ran barefoot through the grass, holding our paper spinners, laughing and imagining giants blowing air across the land. And you know, I still don't think it was just a made-up story, because the tale gave us imagination, and the truth gave us understanding. Together, they made the wind something special. When my own children ask, "Dad, where does the wind come from?" I first smile and say, "It's blown by giants who live in the mountains." Then I add, "But really, it's the sun and the earth dancing their dance of air." And every time I see the same spark of wonder in their eyes that we once had. Wind isn't just moving air. It's a reminder that the world can be both a mystery and a lesson, and that makes it even more beautiful. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you enjoyed the story, give it a like and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next one.